Welcome back to another edition of the Sports Tech Atlanta Seed Talk podcast. I'm your host, Sterling Mack. Quick little solo one here on December 8th. We are marching towards the holiday season. Can't wait. It's always a weird time between like Thanksgiving and Christmas where like you're trying to get some work done. You're trying to finish out the year, especially if you're like in sales or you're like chasing some things for the end of the year. But then it's also like this weird time where you're just, if you can kind of hear my voice, you're doing so many, you're outside a little bit more, holiday parties, like all, it just feels like you're doing more towards the end of the season because you're just like, we all kind of need a break, right? We're all a little burnt out from the year. So my voice is like this because Indiana football won the Big Ten championship on Saturday. I enjoyed myself, probably a little too much, but it's all right. It hurts a little bit more when you get into your 30s, but I feel it feels amazing. You after going to Indiana, playing baseball there, if you had told me that we would have won the Big Ten years later, I would have laughed in your face and bet as much money as I had that would never happen. But what Kurt Signetti has done in the last 2 years, like putting this group together, it's been unbelievable. So shout out to them, man. So happy for everybody that's a Hoosier. It's so cool in Los Angeles to see there were so many Hoosiers that were like out and about on Saturday watching the game. It was unbelievable to be a part of. So just so happy. Can't wait now. Just gotten tickets for the Rose Bowl. Again, if you told me that Indiana was going to play in the Rose Bowl, I would have laughed at you. But it's truly like unbelievable. And honestly, it's like hard to put into like words, like what it feels like to go from like the most losses in college football. So we were essentially we were the worst program ever in the history of college football to now, having a chance to, not only be a part of the dance, but feel like we got a really good shot at doing something really special. So super cool. Let's get into a couple things here. Let's talk a little Barry Bonds. Let's talk a little baseball, right? There's no way for us to continue this charade, in my opinion, that Barry Bonds should not be in the Hall of Fame. There's not. I don't care. I think the tough thing for me as a former baseball player is like knowing how hard it is to play the game. We all know what we saw with Barry Bonds. I say this all the time. Like, we know what we saw. He is the greatest. I think Ohtani has a chance to surpass him, but Barry Bonds is the greatest player we have all ever seen, right? Especially if you're like probably like 30 and up or so, right? You actually got to see him play there towards the end of his career. I mean, his ability to shrink the zone, he never got pitched, and when he did get pitched, he never missed. I want you to watch guys now, like the amount of times guys get a pitch in the zone. And I know like the velocity is up and all those things, right? The movement, the RPMs, all that shit. But like Barry Bonds, it didn't matter if it was like Eric Gagne throwing 100 or it was someone, you know, like a Tom Glavine, right? Who wanted to be on the corners and throw you a little bit of junk. Like, it didn't matter. It did not matter. His ability to shrink that zone and hit the ball wherever he wanted to was unbelievable. It was insane. Then you add in the speed, the stolen bases, the defense. And yeah, I mean, I think if there's one thing to like nitpick about his game is that his arm wasn't that, it was good, but it wasn't that strong. Like, it's crazy. He was created in the lab there, and that's where people get a little tricky. What I'm gonna combat though, right, is like, I'm not gonna say that he didn't or did. Like, obviously we don't really know. I mean, we saw his body change a little bit, like, but for me, what I think a lot of people hold on to is that, like, the fact that his body got bigger, right? But we also use that anonymous list that I think it comes out in 2009, but or maybe a little bit before that, right? But it was like the 2003 anonymous testing that the Major League Baseball did before they started putting in those new like steroid rules, which didn't go into effect until 2005, right? A few names are on that list that are now in the Hall of Fame. I think the biggest one for me is David Ortiz, right? Who, when he first came up, was more of like an opposite field kind of guy. All of a sudden, his body kind of trend. Maybe, also just like I think he obviously don't know what he really did, right? But I think your body naturally changes as you get older. That's fairly obvious. But David Ortiz is on that list. Todd Helton is on that list. Pudge Rodriguez is on that list, right? And then we have other guys that we suspected, right, back during that time. Jeff Bagwell, Mike Piazza, who were also in the Hall of Fame. My thing to that is none of us really know, right? Like your body changes or whatever. Like unless you had, and I agree, AJ Pierzynski said this, I think on his podcast over the weekend. Like unless you had a positive test after they put in the rules, right? And listen, baseball has to like acknowledge that they made missteps here, right? They needed 99 is so big for them because of the strike in 94. You need to get fans back into the game. Like it just wasn't the same. Baseball dominated the sports landscape in America for so long. All of a sudden, the strike lets football start to kind of like creep in. And obviously now football is way bigger than anything we have here in America. But they used the home run race in 99 with McGwire and Sosa. And honestly, Griffey was in there for a while until he kind of faded off at the end to bring back fans. And it did. It brought fans back. Like the home run ball brought everyone back to the game. They knew what was going on. They turned this blind eye. We don't put in these rules until like 05, and then they get a little bit stronger as we go on. So like the guy, like for me, like a Manny Ramirez, a Robinson Cano, A-Rod, and A-Rod to me is one of the, like, you look at his first few years, like he was so good. It's so unfortunate that how his career kind of went, right? Obviously too, he ends up suing the Players Association, and it just gets super tricky there towards the end of his Yankees tenure. But like we don't have that. Like that's my thing going back, obviously, with Bonds. We don't have a positive test. We don't have one for Bagwell, for Ortiz. So you can't, for me, to vilify or to villainize Bonds in this way, I think is so unfair. Like, sure, shitty to the media and difficult and all these things. Like, okay. So he's not in because of that? The best player we've ever seen play baseball is not in the Hall of Fame because he was a dick to some of the media members? Like, that's crazy. And then you're going to change it's almost kind of like the Notre Dame Alabama thing, right? Like you change the math to get in whoever you want to get in, right? So Ortiz was super likable and grabbed the mic after the Boston bombing and like all this thing. Like you have all these moments that make you feel really good about him. And oh yeah, he might have done steroids and he was on the list the anonymous list in 03, but we're gonna just slide by that, right? We're gonna slide by the fact that he hit home runs late in his career and was still really good late in his career, and we don't know why that is. But Barry Bonds on the other side was on the anonymous list, never tested positive, and because we don't have these moments that make us feel good, we're not gonna put him in the Hall of Fame. Like it doesn't like the math doesn't make sense, right? And I think that's, to me today, as we continue down this road with him, I just don't think the Hall of Fame is complete without Barry Bonds. I actually don't think it's complete without Pete Rose, but Pete Rose to me should still be banned, right? You cannot bet on the game. You cannot be the manager and be placing bets. And I get that he did it for his team, never bet against his team. I get all that kind of, right? But at the end of the day, like, we don't really know. And that's always the thing, right? If you don't really, really know, you have to like take what you have at face value. Um, and I think it's just tough. I think it's tough as a baseball fan to continue to do this, year in, year out and not have the best player representing the game of baseball. And so, um, LeBron, not only is he back, I mean, I've said it. I said it a couple times, and I still maintain the idea that like it could have gotten tricky, or could still get tricky, right? Depending on how he wants to end his career, and he's deserving of that. But last night against the Sixers are these moments where I think as a fan you just appreciate his greatness, and I think something that popped up over the weekend as well, like Zion is out again. Um, and I don't know if it was an exec or maybe a former teammate was like, he's got the same talent as like a LeBron James, right? Same athleticism, those type of things, but he doesn't love the game like LeBron. And that is what I think we don't all appreciate. Like I'm about to talk about the appreciation, but I don't think we talk about it enough. You got to love this shit. You got to love the grind and not only what your body goes through, what you go through mentally. If you watch the game, like he was having banter last night with some of the fans, he crowns himself after hitting the step back. You just love that he loves to be a competitor. And I don't know. I mean, I think we've talked about this a little bit on the pod, but like once Steph, KD, like I just wonder how many guys are going to be that competitive as they get into this. The NIL landscape has changed how much you really have to like love this, because obviously before it was like, okay, you got guys going from their 1 year in college to the league, which is great, all like nothing wrong with that. But now you've got this ability for you to make a ton of money in college, which again is great, but it also takes a little bit of the fire away from you. When you already achieve a little bit of that financial security, a little bit of that like taste of what it's like to be not just like going from like big man on campus, but now it's like big man on campus and I'm rich too. It takes a little bit of the fire away from guys. Like if you don't love it, if you don't love what you got to go through, what your body's got to go through, what you got to do day in, day out to be great. And that's what's so cool about LeBron is he's never wavered from being great. He's never wavered. He's never run from the challenge, right? And it's just amazing to watch. It really is. And I felt like, and I said it on Threads. If you're not following me, shout out Mack on Threads. You knew he was going to ramp it up with the sciatica, and he's got some other kind of ailments going on. You knew he would just kind of start to slowly ramp this up. And now you can see just how his basketball IQ, like how smart he is so crazy. Of course, he and Luka and Reeves would like figure out the flow of it. Again, it was just like if he wanted to do that or not. And so just super cool to see LeBron, LeBron being LeBron for us. And I don't know how long, that's going to continue. So, all right, last one today. Like I said, quick little solo pod here. I put this on Threads. I said, has Josh Allen snatched Mahomes' chain? And had a lot of comments. Appreciate the love what Threads gives you, that ability to like have cool conversations or have a little banter with people back and forth. I'm not saying that like Allen all time is going to be better than Mahomes. I'm just saying right now, Josh Allen is playing a head and shoulder above where Mahomes is. And I don't think any of us really thought that would happen. I think we thought Mahomes would be on this Brady trajectory, and maybe he still is. What's he like? I think he's about between 29-30. So Still got a decade to kind of, try to go after Brady, but like we never saw there were times where like it was like Brady, Manning, right? Peyton would have these like crazy regular seasons and never get it done in the playoffs. But it never felt like one was playing like above the other in a way that was like very jarring. To me, it is jarring watching Mahomes right now operate at like a very pedestrian level where where Allen is he is lifting that team week in and week out. Of course, they've got some losses, but like you look at what he did yesterday against the Bengals, that Tampa Bay game is very similar where he puts on this like Superman cape and his ability, he's so big, he's so strong, he's so fast, he's got such a good arm. It's when he's rolling, it's crazy. I think the thing that's always kind of held him back, right, was like the turnovers and some of the fumbles and some of the bad decisions. Like you're just like, what the hell was that? But when he plays at this level, I mean, to me, there's no one else. And so I don't know. I think it's a fair question right now. Like obviously the Chiefs lost last night to the Texans. The Texans defense is really good, but you expect a guy of Mahomes' caliber to figure it out better than he did. I think he was like 14 to 34 with 3 interceptions. One of them was off of Kelsey's hands, but I mean, you're supposed to be the greatest. So that's where I'm at right now. And the thing about that is I was last year I felt like Lamar should have won the MVP. Like I felt like we gave the MVP to Josh Allen kind of in this like we felt bad for him. It's like, oh, he may never win one. Like, let's give him this one. This year it just feels different. It feels like week in, week out, he is doing some things. You're just like, man, that is crazy. Like, and then I saw a couple people respond to me this morning saying that Stafford's playing the best. And like, Stafford's been great. Don't get me wrong. But I don't know if enough people are watching Buffalo week in, week out. That's all I'm saying. How do I sign off here today? Check out Open Mondays if you are into golf gear. You want to get some fall golf gear. Check out Open Mondays. Our guys over there. You can find me at SteamMac pretty much everywhere: Instagram, Twitter, Threads, all the things. Find us at the Sea Talk Podcast. Same thing on like Instagram, TikTok, YouTube. We're also anywhere you get your podcast, the Sea Talk Podcast, like Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all the things there. And we'll see you in the next edition of the Sea Talk Podcast. We appreciate it.